Did you know that 1 in 6 home sales fall through? That's right. Industry-wide, 17% of buyers back out before closing. As a real estate pro who's closed hundreds of deals, I've seen it all. So how to improve your closing odds as a buyer and an agent? Today, I'm sharing my top secrets to make sure your sales go through. When a sale falls apart, it is tough on everyone. Just imagine, you're a seller, all packed up and ready to move. Then boom, the buyer backs out. Now you're stuck. Your plans are messed up and you might lose money. It's not fun for the buyers either. They can lose their dream home, money they spent on inspections and appraisal, and potentially their earnest money deposit. But here's the good news. I've got 5 tricks that can help you stop this from happening. So let's dive in to the first 2 tricks that help keep buyers from backing out. Remember, these aren't just any old tips, they're game changers that I've used to save countless deals. Trick number 1, it's a classic reference to Simon Sinek's Golden Circle, and it all starts with why. Get to know your buyer's motivation, and if you're the buyer, get crystal clear on why you want to buy a home and why right now. This might sound simple, but trust me, it's a game changer. When you get crystal clear on why someone wants to buy or sell a home, it's not just a transaction anymore. You're achieving a dream, and that's like super glue for your deal. So how do you do this? It's all about asking the right questions. When you first meet your buyers, don't just focus on what kind of house you or they want. Dig deeper. Find out why they're buying, not just what they want. What you want is a byproduct of why you want it. For example, are you starting a family, getting divorced, looking for a better school district? Are you an empty nester downsizing for retirement, etc.? Each of these reasons come with different needs and concerns, and these answers can tell you so much. Another key question is, what's the timeline? This tells you how urgent the need is. Is there a rush because of a job transfer, or are they just casually looking with no set date in mind? Knowing this helps you tailor your approach and keep everyone engaged throughout the process. Now, let's move on to trick number 2. Keep communication lines wide open. As an agent, you can't just chat with your buyers once and expect everything to go smoothly. Regular check-ins are the secret weapon against buyer's remorse and cold feet. As a buyer, you should expect your agent to give you a fiduciary of reasonable care. Here's a pro tip. Set up a schedule for staying in touch. Maybe it's a quick text update every few days or a call once a week. The exact frequency, well, that depends on your buyer and where you're at in the process. But trust me, consistency is key. When you keep in touch, you're not just passing along information, you're building trust. You're showing your buyers that you're on top of things, that you care about their purchase, and that you're there to answer any questions or concerns that they might have. I remember one time, I had a young couple buying their first home. They were excited, but nervous. You can probably remember that feeling. I made sure to check in with them regularly, even when there wasn't much new to report. Just a quick, hey, how are you feeling about everything? What questions do you have? Those simple check-ins made all the difference. About halfway through the process, the husband got cold feet. He started worrying about the mortgage payment and whether they were really making the right choice. Because I had already built a relationship and kept those lines of communication wide open, we had already established trust, and he felt comfortable sharing these concerns with me. And let me tell you, if I hadn't known about his worries, things could have gone south fast. But did the deal fall through? Well, I don't want to spoil the story just yet. Let's just say that knowing the buyer's why and keeping in touch with him saves the deal in ways that you might not expect. These first 2 tricks, knowing your buyer's motivation and maintaining open communication, they're like the foundation of a strong sell. Get these right, and you're already halfway to preventing the buyer backouts, and in a way you won't regret. Trick number 3, tackle potential issues head on. You might be thinking, why would I want to bring up problems? Well, let me tell you, it's way better to address these concerns early on than to let them fester and blow up later. Think of it like a small leak in a pipe. Fix it early and you're good. Ignore it and suddenly you've got a flooded basement. An agent has a responsibility of full disclosure, and it's always better to be upfront and honest so you're protecting your client's best interest, regardless of the outcome. It's not about getting a sell, but it's about getting your clients into the right home in the right way. So, what kind of transactional issues should you be aware of? Well, there are a few biggies that come up all the time. First, there's the home inspection. Buyers often freak out when they see the long list of problems. But here's the thing. Most of those issues are usually more minor and easily remedied. The key is to go through the list with your buyers, explain what's normal wear and tear, and have a plan for addressing any real concerns. It's also a good idea to get industry experts involved. If there's a plumbing issue, get a plumber's opinion. If there's a roof concern, make sure you get a roof inspection. This helps everyone's peace of mind. Another big hurdle is appraisal issues. Sometimes the appraisals come in lower than the agreed price and the buyer starts to panic. The solution? Be ready to negotiate. Stay fluid. Can the seller lower the price? Can the buyer bring more cash to the table, or can we meet somewhere in between? Having these conversations early on saves you a lot of headaches later on. Now, let's talk about trick number 4. Negotiate smart incentives based on your buyer's home ownership objectives. What does the buyer need? What are their non-negotiables in order to successfully complete the transaction? Is it a rate buy-down, closing costs, a fridge, etc.? Stick to your non-negotiables and then compromise on the things that aren't as critical. This makes opportunities for everyone to experience a win. But here's the thing. The most effective incentive, well, I'm going to keep that under wraps for now. Let's just say it's something that can make a huge difference, especially in a competitive market. Let me give you an example of how these two tricks can work together. I had this couple buying their first home. Everything was going smoothly until the home inspection. Turns out the house needed a new roof. Now, normally this is where a lot of buyers would just back out and run for the hills. But remember, trick number 3, we tackled it head on. I sat down with the buyers and the seller's agents. We laid out all the facts, got an expert's assessment on the roof, found out how much a new roof would cost, how long it would last, etc. And the buyers were still on the fence. That's when we brought in trick number 4. The sellers offered to pay for most of the new roof as an incentive. Suddenly, what looked like a deal breaker turned into a win-win. The buyers confidently moved forward and the sellers achieved their home sales goal. All right, we've covered 4 amazing tricks to keep you as buyers from losing the home of your dreams and needlessly backing out, but I've saved the best for last. This final trick is the secret weapon that helped me close hundreds of deals. It's all about using legal protections and earnest money in the right way. Earnest money is basically a deposit the buyer puts down to show how serious they are about buying the home. Usually, it's about 1 to 2% of the home's price. Earnest money is important because it showcases the buyer's ability and commitment to move forward, and it reaffirms the buyer their personal desire to make this happen. Essentially, earnest money is putting your money where your mouth is. I tell people the earnest money amount should be enough to make you think twice about backing out, but not so much that it would cause you financial ruin if you walked away. You want to hit that sweet spot in between. One of my key roles as an agent is to protect your earnest money as a buyer. There are a couple key safety clauses in a transaction where a buyer could back out and get their earnest money back, no questions asked. But realize, after the financing and appraisal deadline, usually 3 weeks into the transaction, that money becomes non-refundable, no questions asked. I'm constantly working with buyers to make sure we're on the right track through each step of the transaction. So when we get to this crucial deadline, it's not a big hurdle to get over. It's simply the next reasonable step in the process to closing on your new home. Let me tell you a quick story about how all this came together to save a big deal. Everything was going great until about a week before closing. Suddenly, the buyers got cold feet. They started talking about backing out. My job is to be obedient and do what a client asks, but I also need to balance it with my fiduciary of full disclosure. Because we'd communicated early on and consistently throughout the entire transaction about earnest money, we smoothly navigated this hurdle. I sat down with the buyers and went through everything. We talked about the pros and the cons of the home, why they wanted the house in the first place, and what was concerning them today to back out. We then looked at all the work that had been done to get to this point and the checkpoints we put in place to make sure they were making the right choice. The less we make decisions based on emotions and the more we can make decisions based on data and information, the more we'll be satisfied with our final decision and outcome. Finally, I reminded them about the earnest money. If they backed out now, they lose that deposit. The contract can help you to crystallize your next step. They considered all their options. They felt confident in their decision and ultimately closed the deal. The sellers got to sell their house and the buyers got into their dream home. All because we followed the steps outlined above. Remember, these are 5 powerful tricks to keep buyers from losing their dream home. These steps can help us overcome hurdles, recognize when we need to stop moving forward on the transaction when it isn't the right decision, and also helps us understand how to prevent a transaction from falling apart by needlessly backing out. Get very familiar with your client's why. Communicate often. Always give full disclosure. Address concerns early on, and negotiate incentives that help make small wins along the way. Understand how contracts and earnest money both protect both parties. These tricks work best when you use them together. They're like a safety net for your deal. Get very familiar with your client's why. Communicate often. Always give full disclosure. Address concerns early on, and negotiate incentives that help make small wins along the way. And finally, understand how contracts and earnest money protect both parties. These tricks always work best when you use them together. They're like a safety net for your deal. So here's what you need to do next. Make a checklist of these 5 tricks and use it for every deal.